So, hey everybody, welcome in. It's May 6th. You're here with Jane and Mark over at Blue Box 29. We're having a discussion for a little bit before we welcomed you guys in. But it kind of let us in, and that's why I wanted to start, was because today's all about the bloom.
Okay.
So we've talked about the beginning, and we had the 4 elements, and now we are at the bloom. So actually getting to, I don't know, kind of selfishly get to revel in the beauty that's around us.
Yeah.
Right. So we actually get to enjoy it.
Right.
And we kind of talked about that too. A little bit of our ego. I think we do like to stand in the, in the beauty when we're there. We want to appreciate it. We want to go, yeah, I did this.
Right.
Yeah, this is me. So, I mean, we were talking about ego for a little bit before this. So how do we utilize ego for like the bloom? Like, how do we allow ourselves to sit in that, to acknowledge the life and like where we've come to and what we're becoming, rather than a prideful kind of thing?
I think there's a fine line of that, and it's a challenge within everybody that you have to think of for yourself. Like, what am I doing this for? Which I kind of did myself. With my aunt, she's going through some stuff right now, and I'm really torn with what I believe to be true that I can do and with the reasons why. And it's tough to say because, a big part of me wants to do it and be like, see, and just like, I told you so, but that's the wrong energy. And that's kind of yuck.
Right.
And I don't like that. I don't like that. I even, was like thinking that.
Do you think that's part of why you haven't shared it with people, that you wanted to go like directly? Because like I know you've shared with me that you wanted to help, but you've made no, I guess, kind of sign, or I haven't seen it.
I
Let's just
just
say I haven't
wanted,
seen it.
and I more wanted like,
Me to mention it?
no, 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 no. I'm all about like almost the invitation of the sign. Like, I'm waiting to see something because is it my place to just, you know, force it? And there's other things behind that as well, behind my reasonings to not with that, just that, other things in general. But when you look at something from a prideful aspect, because if I get this, then I'm gonna be this. That's a loss. It might bloom, but it's gonna be a weed.
Right? Or it's going to be pushed too soon, right? It may not be the fact that that's not true, right? It's just not our time yet,
Yeah.
right? So, with our theme of emergence with the bloom, and then our lesson is beauty is bravery, we're looking at not only sitting in it, but what it means, kind of taking that patience and the things that are required for it to bloom, and how it's not a permanent thing either, though. Right? So it's a blooming, and then it's a rise, a rise, a fall through the cycles. But as we're listening to these stories, we're going to think about where we are blooming now. So maybe we aren't fully blooming, right? We're taking our time for whatever reason, even if it's annoying to us.
Right.
But where are we beginning to bloom? Right? So what would you say? I mean, with your QHHT stuff, and all the creative things that you've been doing. I mean, we found some more poetry books of yours. We found this creative writing stuff. And then you have that as well. So, I mean, what would you say?
So with me and my blooming, a lot of that has to do with everything that I'm doing, to make myself bloom. And man, I can do a whole lot more. Like a whole lot more. And that's where I think I'm at with that, with the whole ego part and everything included that we've been talking about. Is I know the tools, and the good saying of that, I keep looking for more tools, like, ooh, what's the next easiest step? And then there's this one where it's talking about that, where it's like, you're always looking for the next best thing, but you can't even be a master at one thing. If you just do one thing and get really, really good at it, And what's funny is I've always said that about
Mhm.
myself too. I've always been really good at stuff. Like I'll pick it up quick, but I've never took the time to master one skill. Not once have I ever
Yeah.
tried until QHHT came on. It's the first time that I've wanted to do it 100% and dive in and learn and understand what I'm doing. So it's interesting because I need to do other things that could possibly help. I've just yet to do that. And like I was telling you before we even started recording, that I was going to meditate, and you were like, "Oh, I'm on my way home." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, um, just things like that where I'm noticing, hey, do this, and then when I don't take that moment and I choose to do something else because I'm like, I'll do it later, and then I don't have the opportunity to do it. That's just me seeing my intuition saying, "Hey, see, I told you," and it's me being like, "Okay." I'm starting to see it more now because I call myself out when I miss it. I'm
Right.
like, I missed it. But if I keep calling myself out, sooner or later, I'm either going to stop getting the messages or I'm going to start doing it. So hopefully it's the I start doing it.
So, I think it's where you're at right now with everything that you've just said, and also with this. It's kind of exciting because we get to think about where we're blooming.
Mm,
But then the actual activity is for us to go smell flowers or some herbs
mm,
and just sit there and really pay attention to everything that we're smelling, right?
yeah.
So the bloom is not only, that opening, the potential, the abilities, all this other stuff, but it's also just being in the
Mm,
stillness. So
yeah.
appreciating where we are and the sun and everything of the
Got it.
sort.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. So
Yeah.
we're on May 6th, and so we're gonna listen to these 4 stories. It's gonna be Roman, Japanese, Aztec, and Thai
Ooh.
today. So we have 4 stories all about the bloom,
Mm,
and so, yeah.
that sounds awesome.
Well, enjoy these 4 stories, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
See you guys. Love you.
Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1, Flora, the bloom that awakens the world. In the time when the earth had known stillness and the fields lay quiet beneath the fading breath of winter, there came a moment when life stirred once more beneath the soil, unseen yet inevitable. The land, though it appeared dormant, held within it countless seeds waiting in silence, their forms hidden, their strength gathering in darkness. It was in this threshold between stillness and awakening that Flora, goddess of flowers and blossoming life, moved gently across the earth. She was not a force of sudden change, but of gradual emergence, of soft unfolding, of life rising in its own time. Wherever she passed, the ground responded, not with violence or haste, but with quiet transformation. The frozen soil softened, the first green shoots pressed upward, and the earth began to remember its own abundance. Flora did not command the land, but invited it, coaxing forth what already lay within, allowing the hidden to become visible. Her presence was carried in the smallest movements, in the breaking of a bud, in the first bloom opening to the light, each act a sign that life was returning, not as it had been, but renewed. As the days lengthened and the warmth of the sun grew stronger, Flora's work became more visible, spreading across fields, forests, and gardens alike. Flowers rose in countless forms, each one different, each one carrying its own color, its own fragrance, its own place within the greater whole. The earth, once bare, became adorned, covered in blossoms that moved with the wind, their petals opening fully to the light. This was not a single act of creation, but a continuous unfolding, a process that moved outward from the unseen into the seen. Flora was present in each bloom, not as a distant figure, but as a force that allowed it to become what it was meant to be. The seeds that had rested in darkness now revealed their purpose, rising through the soil, breaking through the surface, and reaching toward the sky. The world itself seemed to awaken in response, animals moving more freely, the air carrying new scents, the land alive with motion and color. Yet this beauty was not without its fragility, for each bloom existed only for a time, its life brief, its presence fleeting. Flora did not prevent this passing, for the nature of blooming is not permanence, but expression, the moment when what has been hidden becomes visible before returning once more to the cycle. As the season of blooming reaches its fullness, the presence of Flora remained in every petal, every fragrance, every field touched by her passing. The people who came to honor her, recognizing that the beauty of the world did not arise from force, but from the quiet courage of emergence, from the willingness of life to reveal itself after a time of stillness. The flowers, though delicate, carried strength within them, for they had risen from darkness, breaking through the weight of the earth to reach the light. In this they held a deeper truth, that life does not remain hidden forever, that what is nurtured in silence will one day come forth. Flora's presence was not only in the bloom, but in the process that led to it, in the unseen growth beneath the soil, in the patient unfolding that could not be rushed. Even as the blossoms would one day fall, returning to the earth from which they came, the cycle would continue. The seeds formed within them carrying the promise of future blooms. Thus, the world was not defined by what remained, but by what emerged, again and again, through the rhythm of growth and return. In every flower that opened, there remained the presence of Flora, the force that brings life into its visible form, reminding all that beauty is not found in what is held back, but in what dares to bloom. Story 2. Konohanasakuya Hime, the blossom that proves life. In the time when the mountain stood as the bones of the land and the sky arched wide above them, there came a presence as delicate as it was powerful, known as Konohanasakuya Hime, the princess of blossoming trees, whose beauty was linked to the fleeting blossom of the cherry flower. She was the daughter of Oyematsuomi, the great mountain deity, and carried within her both the strength of stone and the softness of petals, a union of endurance and impermanence. When Niniji no Mikoi To, the divine descendant sent from the heavens, beheld her, he chose her as his wife, drawn not only to her beauty but to the quiet power she held within her. Yet within this union came doubt, for soon after they were joined, Konohana Sakuya Hime conceived, and Anigi questioned whether the child she carried was truly his, suspecting that her beauty might conceal something unseen. His doubt, though spoken in fear, struck at her heart of her truth, and in response she did not argue or plead, but chose instead to reveal her nature through an act that would bind her to both life and flame. To prove the purity of what she carried, Konohana Sakuya Hime entered a hut and sealed herself within it, setting it ablaze so that the fire consumed everything around her. The flames rose quickly, surrounding the structure, devouring wood and air alike, leaving no path of escape. Within that fire she remained, not as one overcome, but as one who stands within the force that reveals truth. The fire did not take her life, for what she carried was not false, and within the burning hut she gave birth to her children, bringing them forth in the midst of flame. One by one they were born, unharmed by the fire that surrounded them, their lives emerging from the heat that would have destroyed what was not true. In this act, the doubt of Naniki was answered, not with words, but with the undeniable presence of life that could endure even in the most consuming force. The fire became not a destroyer, but a witness, a force that revealed what was real by burning away what could not endure. Konohana Sekoye Hime emerged from the flames, her children alive, her truth made visible, her being unchanged by what had sought to test it. From that moment she became known not only as a figure of beauty, but as a force of life that blooms, even under trial. Her presence carried in the cherry blossoms that open each spring, brief yet radiant, fragile yet enduring in their return. The blossoms, though they fall quickly, do not mark an ending, but a continuation, a cycle that returns again and again, each bloom carrying a memory of what has come before. Konohanasakuya Hime's story became woven into the understanding of life itself, that what is true will endure, that what is born in integrity cannot be undone by fire. The blossoms that bear her name open fully, without hesitation, knowing that their time is brief, yet within that briefness lies their beauty, their purpose, their truth. The fire that once surrounded her did not destroy her, but revealed her, and in this her story reflects the nature of emergence itself, that life does not come forth without challenge, and that what blooms does so with both vulnerability and strength. In every blossom that opens and falls, there remains the presence of Konohanasakuya Hime, the one who brought forth life through flame, whose beauty is not in its permanence, but in its willingness to emerge fully, even knowing it will one day return to the earth. Story 3. Xochiquetzal, the flower that emerged from sacrifice. In the age when the world had already been formed through cycles of creation and destruction, when suns had risen and fallen and the earth had been reshaped through divine struggle, there came a time when beauty itself required renewal. The land bore life, yet it was not adorned with the fullness of color, nor did it carry the delicate expression of blossoming that would come to define its vitality. Within this world moved Xochiquetzal, whose name spoke of precious flower and radiant plume, the goddess of fertility, beauty, and the unfolding of life in its most adorned form. She was not merely the presence of flowers themselves, but the force that allowed beauty to emerge from what had already been formed, the breath that brought color into the world. After its shaping, the earth, though alive, held within it hidden potential, a beauty not yet revealed, and within Xochiquetzal rested the power to bring that forth. She moved through the world as quiet. She moved through the world as a quiet yet undeniable presence, a force that did not impose but revealed, coaxing from the land what it already carried within itself. The seeds lay beneath the soil, the plants grew in their form, yet it was through her that they came into bloom, their hidden beauty made visible. Yet the emergence of beauty was not without its trials, for in the realms of the gods forces of conflict and desire moved as they did among mortals. Xochiquetzal was taken from the world above, drawn into the domain of Tezcatlipoca, the lord of the shifting night and the unseen, whose presence brought both change and challenge. In her absence, the world was altered, and though life continued, it lacked one fullness of its expression. The blossoms did not open as they once had, and the land, though still living, seemed dimmed, as though something essential had been withdrawn. Yet even within this separation, the nature of Xochiquetzal did not fade, for what she embodied could not be undone. Beauty, though hidden, remained within the world, waiting for the moment of its return. When she emerged once more, returning from what it had held her apart, the world responded as though awakened, and the flowers opened again, more vibrant than before, their colors deepened, their forms enriched by what had passed. The land did not simply return to what it had been, but became something fuller, carrying within the memory of absence and the strength of renewal. From that time forward, the blooming of flowers became more than a simple act of growth, but a reflection of emergence, a beauty rising even after disruption, of life expressing itself fully after being held in shadow. Xochiquetzal remained as a presence within every blossom, within every act of creation that brings beauty into the world. Flowers, though delicate, carried strength within them, for they did not exist without the forces that shaped them, without the cycles that allowed them to emerge again and again. Their blooming was not permanent, yet it was complete, each flower opening fully in its time, revealing what had been hidden within. The people came to understand that beauty itself is not separate from life, but a part of its unfolding, something that must be allowed to emerge, even when the world has been changed. In every bloom there remained the presence of Xochiquetzal, the one who brings forth what lies beneath the surface, who allows life not only to exist, but to express itself in fullness. Thus the world came to carry not only life, but adornment, not only form, but beauty, each blossom a reminder that what is hidden will rise, and that even after absence, emergence is always possible. Story 4. Mae Phosop, the rice that blossoms into life. In the early time when the land was fertile, yet the people had not learned how to draw sustenance from it in abundance, the earth lay quiet in its giving, its richness not yet fully understood. The fields stretched wide beneath the sun, but they did not yet hold the golden waves that would one day feed generations. The people gathered what they could from the land, but their lives were uncertain, dependent on what could be found rather than what could be grown. Within this quiet world moved Mae Phosop, the rice goddess, whose presence was both gentle and enduring, a spirit of nourishment who carried within her the life that would sustain the people. She was not separate from the grain itself, but embodied it, her being intertwined with the rice that would one day fill the fields. Before she revealed herself in full, she existed as potential, as the unseen force within the earth, waiting for the moment when she would rise and take form in the world of the living. In one telling, Mae Phosop came to the people in the time of need, when hunger had grown in the land, though capable, had not yet been understood. She revealed to them the nature of rice, not as something to be taken, but as something to be nurtured, something that required care, patience, and respect. She showed them how to plant the seeds, pressing them into the wet earth, allowing them to rest beneath the surface where they could gather strength before emerging. The people learned to tend the fields, to guide the water, to protect the young plants as they grew, understanding that what was placed into the earth would not rise immediately, but would require time and attention. As the rice began to grow, the fields changed, filling with green roots that rose from the water, their presence a sign that life was taking root. The people watched as the plants matured, turning from green to gold, their heads heavy with grain, ready to be gathered. In this transformation, they saw not only food, but the unfolding of life itself, the movement from seed to harvest, and what is hidden to what is revealed. Mae Phosop did not remain apart from this process, for she was present within the rice itself, within every grain that was grown and harvested. The people came to understand that the rice was not merely sustenance, but a living presence, something that must be treated with care and honor. They spoke to it, sang to it, and handled it with reverence, knowing that within it was the life that sustained them. The act of planting became sacred. The act of harvesting carried meaning, and the grain itself was seen as a gift that must be respected. The cycle of growth continued, each planting carrying the promise of what would come, each harvest a fulfillment of what had been nurtured. The fields became places of both labor and connection, where the people worked in harmony with the land, guided by the knowledge that had been given to them. Mae Phosop remained within this cycle, her presence carried in every seed that was planted and every grain that was gathered, a reminder that life is sustained through relationship, through care, and through the willingness to nurture what begins unseen. Thus, the world was not only shaped by what emerged, but by what was tended, by the quiet and ongoing act of bringing life into fullness. In every field that ripened, in every harvest that was gathered, there remained the presence of Mae Phosop, the one who taught the people how to bring forth life from the earth and how to honor the source from which it comes. Daily Thread for May 6th. Emergence asks for courage to be seen. Beauty rises from what was hidden. What blooms carries the risk of loss. Life reveals itself in its own time. The fragile holds quiet strength, and growth becomes visible through surrender. What opens cannot remain unchanged. All blooming is an act of becoming.